Okay, that was awesome. I'm so excited to be speaking with you all about your films. But I just wanted all of us to take a moment to truly soak in the beauty and the brilliance of all of the films that we just watched. Had any of you seen other people's films, or was this the first time?
First time.
Oh wow! What did you think? How did it feel to see your film in the entire selection of all the other films? Was it just like, oh hey, because Penny, you were like the opening act.
I can go. I am just at awe in terms of like the stories that we have and the brilliance and the beauty and the strength that we have being reflected back on me. And it's just beautiful and joyful and hopeful to see all these films. Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm super grateful.
yeah,
Um, I really enjoyed how each film had a different tone. Like,
mhm.
I think one of the films even mentioned how a lot of the times in media, our trans stories are always centering the trauma. And I think so many of the films did such a great job of centering the joy, the resilience, the celebration of our lives. And I think I'm really grateful for just seeing like our stories in our full humanity.
Yeah, I agree. That was La Entrevista with Bersat, where they mentioned that most trans stories are just, plagued with this tired narrative of us, being burdened by struggle and violence and all of that. But it was truly refreshing to see a selection of films that counters that tired narrative and presents something new and fresh and exciting. Well, there you have it. That was Summer of Joy. Very fitting. All of them truly capture the joy and the happiness and being trans and queer. But I just wanted to begin with the question for all of the panelists. The first question was something that I thought about as we watched all of the films. Something that just came to mind was how you all, as filmmakers, in what way do your lived experiences as trans and queer individuals influence the stories and films that you wish to create and wish to tell? Anybody can take this one. Tavi, what do you think?
Sure, I'll go first. Yeah, I think for me personally, because my identity is something that I had to like keep to myself for so long, it's like really therapeutic and important for me to center that identity in the stories that I tell. And it's so funny actually kind of watching that film now from a couple years ago and kind of seeing like where I am now and um how far I've come as a creator. And I have managed to make so many connections through like the stuff that I create, and most of the people that I've connected with are queer and trans in some way. And so in that journey, I've discovered how important that is, not just to me, but to other people as well. Because the mainstream media doesn't necessarily cater to us or create stories for us. And so, for me, if I could be someone to fill that void a little bit for other queer and trans people who are looking to see themselves reflected in other stories as well, that's been very important to me. And so that's been something that I've kind of been learning since making that film. And so it's kind of funny to look back and see that. But, something I thought that was very much for me turns out to be important for the greater community as well.
I love that. That's very beautiful. Um, Anyone else? Penny, Gato, how is it special to you? How does your lived experiences reflect in the films that you wish to create?
I can go. I really have a strong connection, a deeper understanding in terms of coming from the Philippines, and also being trans.
Mhm.
Um, I think about pre-colonial Philippines, or in trans folks were actually revered and is a very essential part in our culture.
Mhm.
And when the Spanish came, the babaylan, they call them the babaylan, which is they are priests, priestess, healers, and warriors at the same time. And when when the Philippines was colonized by the Spaniards, they were the first actually who was targeted um, through colonization. They were the first targeted, and I felt like they were exterminated, but actually like the Babaylan, the trans gender people in the Philippines um, still survive, and their stories has been and their resilience has been passed down through oral history. But being able to know that story, um, for me, you know, made me more um, courageous and open to my own transition and to my own being, going back to myself and being myself. And I feel like that is the power of like our stories, is the possibilities that other people can see for themselves when they see their stories and themselves reflecting back in either film, in art, and it has empowered me. So I feel like it's really, really important to tell our stories ourselves.
Mhm.
If not, um, where can other like next generation can see themselves and have that possibility and have that that hope.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh.
I think for me, I always look at like whatever medium of storytelling I'm using as a means to like reclaim my narrative and
Mhm.
reclaim like my identity for myself, because
Mhm.
I think all people in general, but especially as trans people, like so much there are all of these different narratives that are being projected onto us, by the way that different people perceive us, and that can really change from environment to environment. And so I
Mhm.
think like I constantly feel like I'm being told that I'm this or I'm that, and that isn't always super reflective of who I am. And so I think just the medium of storytelling, whether it's poetry or whether it's photography or whether it's filmmaking, it really allows me to take charge and to I guess like Penny was saying, like center myself, and to I don't know, again, just like that reclamation of power to get to
Mhm.
tell my story and to self-identify. And like I think a narrative that comes up often is like around like all men are trash, and I think as trans men sometimes it can be hard to I guess like craft our own masculinity
Mhm.
outside of that rigid realm of masculinity that is crafted for us, right? And so through my art, being able to show my masculinity in a way that is tender, that is thoughtful, that is soft, and I guess like a word that you used earlier, like this counter narrative to what it is we're being told that we should be.
Yeah, I love that. That is so beautiful. And Kavi also touched on this topic, but I think something so powerful and so beautiful about the films that we just watched is that, um, you know, as trans people, as queer and trans people, we've created this world and this story in which we are fully in control of how we tell our story. We are in control of all the different elements that make our narrative, and the ways that we decide to craft it and create it by selecting certain aspects of it. I just think that it's really beautiful, and it's really you can really tell from the the film that you're watching that it was crafted with very specific choices and decisions that truly fit into this beautiful picture. In one word, what is joy to you? To me, joy is, in one word, effortless. What about you? Penny?
For me, joy feels like freedom. When I feel free.
Gato?
Yeah, that was gonna be my word too. Just feeling free.
Okay. Kavi, was yours also free?
No, I was thinking like peace.
Ooh,
Unburdened from stress.
I love that. That's a good one. My second choice was comfort, so we're up the same alley. Okay, so my next question is, what do you hope people take away from your film? Like, if there was something that that you wish people could take away from watching your film in entirety. For example, when I watched Penny's film, something that I took away from it is just like, my resilience and my tenacity is the most important thing that I have. And you as the filmmaker, what is it that you hope that people take away from it? Because you're obviously creating something in order to move someone, to stimulate certain ideas and emotions and feelings. So what is that for you?
I can go first. When I made the film, I was in the process of both filing for my asylum at the same time making the film. I was still undocumented when I had the cafe. And for me, making the film made my filing for asylum and going through the immigration system, it made me re-dug the truth that I had, the fear and the trauma, and able to express that. So for me, making the film was about freeing myself, and hopefully the freeing myself in that situation, that fear, that trauma of being undocumented. And my hope is by liberating and freeing myself, um, and others seeing that, they can also have that feeling that they can have that too, that we are all interconnected, like my freedom and liberation is connected to yours, as your freedom and liberation is also connected to mine.
I can go next. That was really beautiful, Penny, by the way. Yeah, I hope that, people just kind of take away, and this is something that I was thinking while watching all of the films, that like we all kind of come in different shapes and sizes and shades, and like there's so many, you know, Gato mentioned that there was so many different tones for all these films. And yeah, I just hope that people kind of take away that like each individual is so different, and that's kind of why we need more of these stories to be shown, because there is such like a wide diversity of them. And yeah, I just hope that people take away that like coming into yourself and discovering who you are is very much like a freeing, joyous experience, right? Like we touched on a little bit about how so many mainstream narratives tend to focus on the negative and the trauma, and that's just like not how my experience necessarily was, at least not 100% of the time. And how joyous it really can be, like coming into yourself.
I think initially when I made that film, I was really thinking about like love across language, and like that felt really literal to me because, you know, there's this language barrier between me and a lot of my family because so many of them only speak Spanish, and my Spanish just isn't very like I'm not fluent. But I think there's kind of a little bit of that to be said around, I guess, I don't know, for each person, dealing with family and like your transition or your sexuality can be a very different experience. And for some people, it's more traumatic than others. And I don't know, so I hesitate to say this because of that, but, you know, I think sometimes depending on who our family is, where they come from, they might not have the language to be able to relate to us, right? Like when I first came out as trans, I came out as non-binary, so I used they them pronouns, and that was so much harder for my family to get on board with than using he him. But I'm glad that I was patient with them and I gave them that grace, and I allowed them to grow with me through my journey, right? Even though they didn't have the language or the full understanding to be able to fully understand where I was at in my relationship to me, there was still love and support there. So I think, again, with that, like being able to experience love and hold on to like the nuggets of love, even across language or even across like these different experiences, I think that's important.
That's so beautiful. I also agree as well. I was talking to someone about this the other day, that as I was growing and as I was transitioning, the people around me were changing and transitioning with me as well, which I think it's such a beautiful part about growing and being together and being receptive of change and transformation. And also to add to Kavi's point, you know, trans people are the most powerful and brilliant people that I know, being capable of transcending social norms and expectations and truly reimagining our real true self amidst, you know, everything happening around us. I think it's probably, you know, an incredible gift. I always say that trans people have like a higher consciousness, because we do. Sorry. Actually, not sorry. We do that. And the final question, anybody can take this question. You don't all have to answer it. Some of you touched on it. But why do you think trans stories, or why do you think that stories that center trans and queer people are essential in media right now?
Yeah, I'll touch on this a little bit. I know I talked a little bit about it already with just the diversity of stories. I think that's why we just need more, but also, you know, there's been so much history of trans representation in media, and most of it was by cisgender or heterosexual people, and that portrayal was often negative. And so I think to kind of almost combat that previous portrayal, like we need to kind of show like, no, this is who we really are, right? And coming from our own voices and our own perspectives and kind of reclaiming that. I know Gato kind of touched on that as well, but I think that reclamation is so important. as well as also just kind of normalizing the experience, right? I think like we have kind of had a recent boom in transgender like knowledge just in general. People are starting to like recognize us more and like understand us a little bit more. And so I think that continuing to normalize the experience and show the diversity of experiences is so important just for the general public as well.
It's that counter narrative that is very much needed and critical at this time.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. This concludes Summer of Joy with QWOCMAP in the Transgender District. As I mentioned, it is the first installment of 3. The next one is Summer of Rebirth, and that will be happening Friday, September 10th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And we're going to be joined by a new curation of films and a new panel of filmmakers. But before that, I also wanted to remind everyone in the Bay Area that this upcoming Sunday is a riot party. The Transgender District is hosting a riot party to the 55th year anniversary of the Compton's cafeteria riots, which happened here in San Francisco's Tenderloin 3 years before Stonewall. In this event, sort of catalyzed the modern transgender movement and transgender activism. So we're having this party to celebrate that, because that is huge, it's big, and we should honor that history and honor everyone that took part in it. I am going to be there. It's going to be so much fun. Penny, are you coming? Kavi, you better come too. Gato, you too, you better be there.
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah.
In person.
Yes, if you all want to come and join us, please feel free to do so. And I just want to say that I am so honored that I got to share these hour and a half with you all. Thank you for creating something so beautiful and something so special. You are truly contributing to the transformation of our society. A transformation that is going to create more opportunities for queer and trans people. And you should definitely know that you are spearheading that transformation. So I thank you. And I also thank you on behalf of the rest of our community. So farewell for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you all for being so patient.